There is a great deal of hyperbole out there about what technology can and will be able to do for us. Some of it is overblown, but when it's not, it can be truly transformative. Yvonne Felix is a Hamilton-based artist who knows about that firsthand. Legally blind and well adapted to living without her vision, a piece of wearable technology from the Toronto company eSight has allowed her to see again. And Yvonne Felix joins us now for more. So good to meet you.
Good to meet you, Steve.
Okay, tell me about this thing that you're wearing above your eyes right now.
So eSight is a pair of electronic glasses that allow people like me who are legally blind to actually see.
Legally blind in your case means what?
So for me, it means that 98% of my central visual field is missing, and I can peripherally see 2% out of the corners of my eyes.
So if you were not wearing that device right now, you are looking straight ahead at me and you would see what?
I would see a giant blind spot that looks like a collection of lights sort of flashing and moving around.
But nothing discernible.
Yeah, no, it's completely just like a light source, like staring at the sun almost.
And you'd get a little vision out the sides, out the periphery.
Yes, I would see shapes and shadows, no detail, no depth, just like most people's peripheral vision.
What is that device called that you're wearing?
This is called eSight.
That's the company name. Is that what
So this specific device is called eSight 3. There were a couple other generations before that. Bigger, bulkier, still functional, but this is the newest device since February.
When you get up in the morning, put it on right away?
I have to have a coffee.
Okay, after the coffee?
After the coffee, anything that I need to do that requires me to see, which I've learned is a lot. So being able to read mail, sign sign papers for my kids' homework, get on the GO train, see when the light changes to cross the street. I use it for all the different activities that people go through on a daily basis that they just kind of take granted for that they can see.
Did you ever have sight?
I believe I had some sight when I was born up till the age of 5 or 6. It's very hard, though, when you're a kid to decipher whether you can see or not because you're just learning what the world looks like.
Mm-hmm. But so something happened that caused you to lose your sight?
I actually found out after I was hit by a car. I was crossing the street. I didn't see where the crosswalk was. And I crossed in front of a TTC bus, and a car hit me going very, very fast. And a couple days later, I was checked for a head injury. Didn't have a head injury, but I was complaining about blurred vision. And then they found out that I had something wrong with my maculas.
Let me just understand this. Do you think the accident happened because you couldn't see, or did the accident happen and therefore you can't see?
The accident happened because I couldn't see.
Because you couldn't see?
Yeah.
And you didn't realize it at the time, or were you unaware of it?
Yeah, no, I was learning to read. I had a lot of difficulty with learning to read because I couldn't figure out why people were talking about, like, seeing the word "the." And I remember being in school and looking at the board and not having no clue what a teacher was talking about, but I would just listen. So a lot of my educational experience was like, I think I only got 40% of the information, and it was when somebody was talking.
Fascinating. Yvonne, what does that thing do for you? What does it actually do?
Oh, what it does is it's changed my life, and it gives me access and opportunities that I never thought I would have.
But how does it work?
So there's a camera in the center, and that camera takes a live video feed. It comes down a wire. That wire comes to a controller. And in the controller, there's the battery, and then I can augment the image, which is basically taking a series of algorithms that provide magnification, contrast. I can take pictures with it. I can do things like turn on a flashlight and see at night. And I can use Bluetooth to see what's on my phone as well. So I can use this as a monitor. But all of that gets configured. It comes back up a wire, and then it is displayed on 2 organic light-emitting diode screens that provide me with more than ambient lighting and controls what I'm able to see in front of my eye.
And again, just to clarify, you are wearing glasses, and then there's a device on the outside of the glasses. Are the glasses something that are intrinsic to the device?
Yes, so most people who have low vision actually don't acknowledge that they need corrective lenses, because when you're missing 98% of your visual field, what is an extra 0.5% going to do for you? But with eSight, because you have the information right where you need it, the corrective lens fixes what's in front of the eye, and eSight addresses what's at the back of the eye.
How did you get around before eSight?
Well, I think it was a combination of having really great parents that wanted me to have opportunities in life, so they were sort of my rehabilitation. But I was taught how to use a cane, I was taught how to use Braille, I was taught how to cross the street by listening, so my rehabilitation came from teaching me as someone who was totally blind, and it didn't address the fact that I had vision. I think part of being an artist too is because I have low vision, I always look for light sources, and I'm always trying to adapt and find creative ways to navigate through situations. So it was definitely different from, I think, what most people would, again, take for granted on a daily basis of just doing simple tasks. I had a lot of help learning how to eat and cross the street, and teaching, I was taught how to advocate for myself as well.
What kind of an artist are you?
I'm actually a visual artist, ironically enough.
You are a visual artist?
Yeah.
Even though you couldn't see for the longest time?
I looked at it like it was a challenge.
No kidding.
I wanted to be able to say to people, oh yeah? Okay, well, I can do that too.
Visual artist means what, though?
It means that the medium that I use is visual, so it's not auditory. Means that I can be multidisciplinary too. So I do installations, permanent installations, so sculpture. I paint, and I also use digital media.
And now that you are wearing eSight, how have you changed as an artist?
Well, as an artist, I've learned what the world actually looks like. And I think part of my creative process was making the world how I wanted it to be. So I did things like I would paint my blind spot, and people would say like, oh, that's so emotional. And I'd think, okay, well, I guess it is. For me, it's just that's what the world actually looks like. This is realism. But I was obsessed with drawing. So I would draw, and then I couldn't see the drawing afterwards. And I was obsessed with light sources. And for me now, seeing what the world looks like means that I have more choices as an artist.
And you see it in color?
I see it in full color.
In living color. Let's take we got a little video here that we should play right now. Just, this is a shot done by eSight of when you first tried the glasses on. I'm sure you remember this moment. We'll look at the video and then come back and chat. Sheldon, roll it if you would.
Everything looks really clear. Like it's weird.
Well, how far can you see?
Hopefully,
I don't know, I can see the picture really well.
Oh, yeah.
And I can see Thomas's face really well. I don't see my blind spot. Here. Oh, what's that? Oh, that's me and you. That's my first
Here,
time.
no, bring her.
It's weird, this can sound funny, but like it looks real. Like I feel like I could touch this. Like it looks 3D almost.
how long ago was that?
That was almost 6 years ago.
You remember that moment?
I can't forget it.
Of course not. What was it like?
It was overwhelming because the first thing I noticed that was shocking was the thing, like it was almost like an appendage. The blind spot that I see in front of me wasn't there. It's just stopped me. I almost couldn't breathe because I didn't understand what was happening.
Yvonne, did you know what you looked like before you got eSight?
No.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
So now you know what you look like.
I do.
When you first looked in a mirror and saw what you looked like, what did you think?
I didn't know that person.
That was you, though.
It was, but it was, like looking at a photo of me, it was real. Like I was really there. And it gave me a sense of understanding that I'm alive and I'm in a world that everybody belongs to.
You got kids?
I do.
How old are your kids?
Now they're 11 and almost 6.
So for the first half of your 11-year-old's life, you didn't know what that child looked like.
Yeah.
He or
And
she?
He.
He. Oh my God.
Yeah. And he knew I couldn't see. My second son grew up, that was the baby that was being held. He grew up, he had no idea I couldn't see up until recently when he started noticing, like, you're the only person that wears these glasses. Why are you wearing, like, no other mom is wearing them. But he doesn't know any difference because I could go to a school play and wave at him. and make eye contact. And it was just amazing. My older son, he knew I couldn't see, and whatever that meant to him, he was very excited that I could read and I could look at pictures and we could be looking at the same thing, where my second son was like, "Oh, you're blind? What is, I don't understand."
Now, I noticed in that video you were wearing what looked like sort of an earlier incarnation of what you're wearing right now.
Yes.
So if the one you're wearing right now is what, 3.0?
Yes.
Was that 2 or 1 or something?
That was the device that wasn't even commercially available.
That was the prototype.
That was the prototype.
So presumably at some point these things are going to get smaller and easier to wear and so on and so forth?
Just like the very first cell phone, technology dictates that.
Right. Is there something about the type of visual impairment that you have that makes this a good fit for you, but maybe not for everybody else?
So 3 out of every 4 people that try eSight who are legally blind, this works for. To be honest, it's more about affordability. 70% of people that have low vision, or 70% of people that have a disability are actually unemployed. And also, too, bringing a technology like this that is slightly disruptive to the way people have been trained to deal with having low vision is very different. And, it would be great. And I wonder why it's sort of taking so long for the government to step up and say, hey, we would like to make sure that every person with low vision who this is a fit for can have access to this device and bridge the gap between the programs that are amazing that I accessed, like ODSP here in Ontario.
Disability Support Program.
Exactly, and getting back to work, having access to education. I was one of those people that accessed all of those programs, and I was, very successful at a home business. But what bridged the gap between me and the workforce was access to information live, that was eSight.
So let's do a couple follow-ups on that. How much is that device that you're wearing right now?
It is 12,500 Canadian.
And did you have to buy it all at once, or could you pay for it over time, or what?
You can actually do that now. eSight does have programs in place to help people to afford the device. There's actually an affordability team. So if someone needs eSight, they'll help you get it. I actually fundraised for it. So my hometown knew me as a human being, saw the potential that I had as a human being, and wanted me to have this device. So they all supported me.
If I understand the government's position correctly on this, it is as follows. That is something to assist your life. The government doesn't help people buy their hearing aids, which assists in their hearing. So why should they purchase for you something that assists in your seeing? That's their argument. What do you think of the argument?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to be able to have that debate with somebody. So anybody out there willing to sit down with me and have that talk, and how I can explain how transformative this is, and the fact that I'm now a tax-paying citizen instead of having to access programs. It's a question I often ask myself, why is that? I don't know, but I'd love somebody to explain it to me, because being able to pay taxes and actually give back to my community, to me, it seems like it makes sense. And I'd love someone to explain to me their standpoint on this.
Well, you don't cost us anything now, right? I mean, before,
That's
if you were on a form, it's a form of social assistance, the
Yes.
Ontario Disability Support Program.
Yes.
You still on that?
No, not for the last 4 years.
So how much were you getting every year on that? Probably 10 grand or something like that?
Probably the cost of an eSight.
Cost of an eSight in 1 year.
In 1 year.
And you've been on that for 4 years.
Yeah.
So we've saved a lot of money by not having you on ODSP for the last 4 years.
And I understand that ODSP is there for people that cannot access employment. But for someone like me, it doesn't make sense. Why wouldn't I go get a job if there's technology out there that allows me to?
It's one thing to have this. It's another thing, as you are doing here tonight, I must say, to kind of put yourself out there.
Yes.
And first of all, I pity the fool who'd want to have a debate with you about whether or not the taxpayer ought to pick up the nut on that, because anyway, there's obviously an argument to be made that we should. But why go so public about this?
I think my experience of living with low vision, and now that I've learned the miscommunication that it is because I have access to my sight, I think people need to hear what it's like to be isolated, to not be able to have human contact, to, have a future where someone says you can't drive, you can't be in a chemical lab because you're a risk. I have access to being able to see and be in a chemical lab now. I failed grade 10 math 3 times because I couldn't see the numbers. And now I've gone back and I've done upgrading, and I feel like the world is my oyster, and I want other people to know that too, that there are solutions out there, and people need to have access to technology that allows them to have a full quality of life just like anybody else.
So you have become a messianic champion for this technology, I guess. Is that right?
I have.
And you would presumably like to get government to pay attention and start to fund this.
It means that the playing field is leveled for anybody that wants to use technology like eSight. And this is the only technology out there like it. This is a historical moment in our society. Right now we're focused on inclusion and diversity. And what does that really mean? That means we're inclusive. And if this technology allows me to do all the things that everybody else can do, then to me it makes sense that people would have access to this.
A couple of follow-up questions before we finish here. Number one, I know obviously it's giving you the ability to see, which is a miraculous thing. Do you find it clunky, though, to wear it?
This version, no.
Previous versions, yes.
Previous versions, yes, but I saw the benefits, and I knew that if I wasn't there helping, if someone didn't stand up and say, I'll try that, then we wouldn't be where we are today.
Every time you go into a store or, buy something or, get served at a restaurant, do you have to explain what you're wearing?
So for me, this is a door opener. I don't have to explain every time, but now that I can see the questionable looks on people's faces, holding an identification cane, a cane is a mobility tool, and people do need mobility tools, but an identification cane is different. That tells people that there's something wrong with my sight. So having this device and someone saying, is that VR? What are you watching? Are you looking at me right now? It opens the door for a revolutionary conversation, and I love it when people ask me questions.
Last question. When you finally did look in that mirror and you now know what you look like, did you like what you saw?
I do. I think as an artist, beauty means something to me that humans are all beautiful. And I'm not just saying that. Like the fact that I can see micro expressions and I can see sadness in someone's eyes and their pupil change, like being able to see all those small things, it's very beautiful. And I think when I looked at myself and when I see myself, just the fact that I can see myself is something I didn't think would actually happen in my lifetime.
Your folks around?
My mom still is, yeah.
Your mom's around?
Yeah.
What was that like for her when she finally saw her daughter could see?
I think for my mom, like we actually had a moment last week where we went to the Roger Waters concert together, and she kept looking over at me to see what I was seeing. And I realized that was the first time we've actually, in 4 years, because we're both busy, have had time to go out and enjoy each other's company. And she didn't have to explain everything to me, and we both saw things at the same time. Like for her, when people ask, how does Yvonne get around? How is Yvonne doing? My mom is very proud of me, and I can see that. She's always on social media talking about how this has changed my life. I don't think she has to worry about me.
No, she will, because parents worry.
Yeah,
That's what
I know that.
We just do that for a living. Yeah, you're one, you know it. I want to thank you so much for coming in from Hamilton and doing this interview tonight. We wish you just great good fortune going forward. And I know, as thrilled as you are to be wearing that, I suspect anyway, you're looking forward to the day when probably just some little chip in a pair of regular glasses will give you the same effect, right?
I would definitely like to be able to be around to help make that happen.
Yeah, gotcha. Yvonne Felix, outreach advocate, eSight, and an artist. So nice of you to come into TVO tonight, Yvonne. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Steve.
The Agenda with Steve Bacon is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario, helping businesses stay on the right side of change with strategic thinking, insightful decisions, and business leadership. Are you on the right side of change? Ask an Ontario CPA.